But if you're a coach, one of the teams that you would love to coach for right now is the Brisbane Lions because these guys have been absolutely phenomenal this year. And Don, you didn't want to talk about that last game. How about I don't want to talk about this game because Brisbane boat races the Giants, pretty much doubling them up in scoring and brought to a seventh straight win. The hottest team in all of footy, and they had six straight goals to start the game. And I don't want to blame travel, but it did look like that definitely played a role in. They just looked, man. GWS looked like a bunch of zombies out there through most of this game. It was tough to watch, and it didn't help that you also had this extremely weird and downright stupid debut of Callum Brown because yeah, you bring this guy on, you sue him for his first game, and then you put him there as a medical sub, and he doesn't even see a second of game time. That was just really dumb, man. If it was any other team, I would have totally chastised him for this. Since it's the Giants, I'll go a little lighter on them because I can't just totally read my own team, but I have to be at least a little bit loyal. Mitch Robinson, though, he carries Brisbane to a huge game at this. I mean, he puts up 4 goals, 12 marks, and 30 disposals on this one. And I got to say, the D's look great, but to me right now, the Lions are the real favorites for the Premiership.
Yeah, I mean, as a Giants fan as well, I knew going in that everything had to go right, especially with our injury list.
Especially being a road game, too.
Yeah,
Everything played against them.
and the travel, yeah, I mean, like there was definitely a false start to use the gridiron term. It was, yeah, like for those who don't know, there was like an issue with like the Queensland border situation because of the COVID cases. State borders are shutting down again in Australia. There was some controversy because GWS had just come from Victoria the previous week, and eventually they got worked out. But GWS had to fly up there the morning of the game, and again, you don't want to blame travel. First quarter was brutal. They slowly got their way back into it, but it was all Brisbane for the most part. And yeah, they look absolutely lethal. You mentioned Mitch Robinson, such an aggressive player. If you're a fan of old school footy where people just get the piss knocked out of them every single game, you love watching Mitch Robinson.
Well, that's why I love watching Mitch because he's almost a representation of this Brisbane team as a whole.
Yeah. He's like cartoonishly aggressive sometimes. I love it. But no, yeah, Charlie Cameron, Joe Danaher, Hugh McCluggage, they're just firing on all cylinders at this point. And again, the scary part is they're doing it without Lachie Neal. Obviously, they're on such a hot streak that they can afford to not rush him back, and they wouldn't want to rush him back anyway, just in case he gets hurt again. But obviously, they've just been killing it. And I think Chris Fagan, he's an emotional guy. He's a fiery guy. They feed off of his energy. Obviously, some people don't like the fact that he's coaching from the field instead of coaching from the box. Like that's one of those uniquely Australian things where the footy coaches are usually in the box. But I think he's just obviously he's done an incredible job building a legit flag contender up at Brisbane, and I think they probably have the most to prove of any finals contender this year because they've been the bridesmaid, right? They made prelim last year, couldn't make the grand final. Prelim the year before that, couldn't make the grand final. This is their year, in their opinion. They feel like they didn't have, especially last year. How much would it have stung for the grand final to be at the Gabba and the home team, even though they looked like a flag contender all year, the home team wasn't there. So I reckon that they really do have that extra salt to their game this year. Obviously, they have a massive, massive, massive game against the Demons. We'll talk about that shortly. But yeah, no, absolutely. Hats off to Brisbane. They beat the Giants comprehensively. And yeah, they're definitely looking like a fantastic, fantastic finals team at the moment.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. This Brisbane team is just they give so many weapons, so many chances, and without Lockie Neal, I mean, Lyon steps up. Mitch Robinson has a career high game. I mean, Mitch Robinson's one of those guys to use this one is like he goes in for a tackle so aggressively. It's like the cartoon eyes when their eyes get super big and like jump out of their head. Like that is Mitch Robinson to a T when he sees a guy that he can light up with a tackle. He is Mr. Aggressive. He's physical. and he's kind of an instigator. He'll get under your skin. He's a guy like he's the proverbial guy as an opponent. You hate his guts. You absolutely are sick and tired of him. When he's on your team, he's the one guy everybody loves because he's an instigator. He gets under your skin. He needles you. He picks you. He just gets after you. But for him to kick goals, that just shows you how deep this Brisbane team is. When he's kicking 4 goals on you, wow. I mean, Cameron's great, Hipwood's great, Danaher's great, McStay's been really good up front. The Lions have had a ton of injuries in the back, but just, I mean, Oscar McInerney having a great time in the Rock. I mean, this is a Brisbane team that they're so deep in so many areas. They're going to give every single team in this competition struggles because no matter who you stop, they're going to cause a problem in another situation or another place. So it'll be very, very interesting to see how this weekend's game between them and the D's goes. But this was just a comprehensive victory. I agree with you. GWS is just absolutely snake bitten, but they're blooding these young kids. I honestly, this is another team, a lot like Essendon, that you got to feel really, really confident because the youngsters are playing really well. Tom Green has been absolutely marvelous in the midfield. Cal Ward has played really, really good in the midfield. Mumford is out of rejuvenation to his career. This is the first time they've lost a game with Mummy playing. And to go off what you were talking about Callum Brown, he almost got on. He was supposed to go on because Mumford's hamstring was bothering him. But Mumford didn't want to come off. And that's the reason that happened. Now, let me rant just a tiny bit.
Let's get it.
And I tweeted about this. I saw this, and I've heard this argument by several people in the Vic media and the media over there. I hate rookies, first gamers being put at the med sub. I think it is the dumbest thing in the world. That angers me that coaches are doing that. Play the kid in the 22 or don't play him. Don't put him as the med sub. That is the most ridiculous thing. He loses his entry game because you put him as a med sub. Either put him in the 22 or keep him in the 2s. I know the 2s didn't play this week for GWS because they're in the new VFL. With the Victorian teams, those were all canceled. Okay, I understand that. Let the kid sit out. His parents stayed up in Ireland to watch the game. He didn't play. That's
so messed up. It was definitely a decision. The whole medical sub thing, like, it seems like he gets criticized or praised every week, depending on who's using it or who's misusing it. But no, the Giants needed, again, I know they were trying to get him on, and obviously Mummy's one of the toughest blokes you'll ever play with, so I get why he wanted to stay in. But no, you're right, just completely mishandled. And we've seen that with other, like, remember a few weeks ago, the Crows had that controversy with Lynch not even being ready to go on, and it's like, what the hell are you doing, guys? Like, I know it's a new rule and sometimes people get confused, but come on. Like, if you're going to play, you got to play.
Yeah. It was ridiculous. And like I said, I'm one of those, the one thing I have to, like, I'm almost more applauding some of these teams that don't just use the medical sub when they do. Yes, it was originally brought in for concussion. It's been used for differently, but this is one of those, don't put a rookie, don't put a first gamer in that med sub. Do not do it. Do not do it. Coaches, be better. Put them in the 22. Put an aged veteran in there that's maybe not going to get as much time, but is going to be able to come in and be ready if need be. I feel sorry for Callum Brown. I'm hoping Leon Cameron makes up for that by getting him in the 22 this week. I really, really hope so, because I've heard a lot of really good things about this young player. But again, GWS, you've got so much talent coming back very, very soon. I think you'll be fine. You just literally ran into the best team right now going, best form, most dangerous offense, and you just ran into it at the worst possible time. And the travel didn't help. You were supposed to go up the day before. Queensland government goes, stay there, come on up tomorrow. And that really, I think that threw a lot of the GWS players off. And I agree, that first quarter, you could tell they were not ready to move up that day, to go up that day. They were ready to come the day before, and it really threw them off. It took them forever to get into the game, and by then they were already behind. And when this Brisbane team gets up on you, they put the foot to the throat and they don't lay back.
And now
on the bright side, on the bright side for the Giants, again, I know they've got the bye coming up. I'm looking at the schedule, or the fixture, I should say, after the bye. We've got North Melbourne in Tassie, Carlton at home in Sydney, and Hawthorn at home. So I think it's safe to say that that's as good a fixture as you could want for a side that's recovering from injuries, bringing new guys back in, and of course a side that still obviously can. The door's still open for a final spot this year. So, yeah, you're right. I mean, obviously the young kids. I've been critical of Leon Cameron in the past. I'm sure you have too, Ross. Like, he's definitely someone that, like, it's almost like, do we really want to give him an extension, which we did, but last season. But I think again, we've drafted very well. Like you said, Tom Green, Lockie Ash, a lot of these young kids. Sam Taylor. Before Sam Taylor got hurt, he was an All-Australian contender, and he wasn't even supposed to be the fullback this year. Obviously, that's where Phil Davis normally plays. So, yeah, the Giants will be fine. It's just got to get healthy.
There's hope. There's not a lot of winning at this point, but there's definitely hope for a finals contention still. Not sure if they're going to be really able to compete for the Premiership, but at least a finals berth nonetheless. Be nice to get back in that top 8, especially after choking away their finals hopes late last season.